Hi folks, Success here. Now I've long laboured under the impression, which you will get from many places on the internet, wherever you look, that the original Warncliffe knife was the Ettrick. Now it's true to say that the Ettrick has very much a true Warncliffe blade. The back of the knife kind of rises and is a continuous curve from the bolster right the way to the tip. It's also, given its size, a relatively stout blade, which would be good for whittling and preparing small game. But a couple of things have happened lately that kind of convinced me that that's completely wrong. First thing is, I was watching a video by Stephen Cocker, and he was making a knife, and I looked at it and I thought to myself, do you know, that's the Warncliffe knife. And the reason I thought it was because I was just looking at the knife and the way it was made and the way what he was doing with it, and I thought, that's the description that I've read, not the Ettrick. Second thing is, I was watching Rasputin's Castle the other day, and he's hit on exactly the same thing, and he's done some much better research than I've done. He actually went and found some old catalogues, and he found what is described as the Warncliffe knife, and we'll look at that in a minute. But he also looked at the Ettrick, and he couldn't find any reference to the Ettrick before the early 20th century. I think it was something like 1909 was the earliest entry he could find. Now, it doesn't mean to say it didn't exist before then, because when you find the earliest entry, it existed then and after then, but you don't know how long it existed before then. So it could be that it goes back to the 1830s when the Warncliffe blade story was invented with Rogers and Son. But it's probably unlikely, because you'd think there would be some reference to it in the meantime. No, what is the original Warncliffe knife? Now, it is a pattern that existed, and it was called the Warncliffe, not just with the Warncliffe blade, but an actual pattern. And Rasputin's Castle found pictures of this knife in several catalogues and pulled them up. And the knife in question is this, what I generally just call a serpentine penknife. But this is a pattern. It's been made by many makers in the meantime. Sometimes it can be a little bit longer and thinner. Generally it's about the same size, but the things that you'll note about it, about the handle that is the shape of the bolsters at the end, particularly this straight back with this curve round to the front. It's actually quite distinctive. When you see it, you'll realise. Now, Joe Cocker makes a pattern very similar to this. I think he does it as a whittler, a three-blade whittler. Joseph Rogers, of course, used to do it. This particular one, and all the ones that I have of this pattern, are from Taylor's Eyewitness. But that's just because I collect Taylor's Eyewitness knives. I will hopefully get one of Stephen Cocker's before so very long. As soon as I'm back in funds, hopefully, we'll do that. Yes, so it's not just the blade that's the Warncliffe. And that's why I always puzzled as to why you had the two names in the Ettrick. You had the Warncliffe blade and the Ettrick pattern. Now, as the Ettrick is a name of a Scottish lord, and Warncliffe is the name of an English lord, and I don't think there's any connection between the two. Ettrick is known as an area for the raising of sheep, so it's possible that this knife had some particular market in Ettrick, or it may have had a connection with Lord Ettrick, who's actually the Ettrick and Napier, sits on the House of Lords. So I don't know, but what I do know is that what I'm reasonably assured of now, because it appears in the early Rogers catalogues, from the appropriate time onwards, so it's about the 1830s onwards. It's this serpentine-shaped knife, wider at the top, narrow at the bottom, with this sort of straight back to the bolster. It just follows the line up of the handle of the knife, but the front is curved. And that kind of reflects what the Warncliffe blade is, because this is a Warncliffe blade. There's no getting away from that. It's the way that it curves all the way from the bolster. It goes up and round and back down again, which is very distinctive. A lot of so-called Warncliffe blades today have nothing to do with Warncliffe, really, and a lot of the ones I showed in my recent video probably aren't real Warncliffes, but this is that stout little blade that is really good for whittling, really good for dressing small game, because if you're slitting open your rabbit or squirrel or whatever, you can get the blade under the skin but keep the point up and out of the innards and the organs of the animal, which you really don't want to burst, because that would contaminate the whole thing and probably make it inedible. Certainly you'd have to be very, very careful. So yeah, when I presented my recent video with Warncliffe knives, I included in that this little beauty, and others. It's not just this one, but I kind of said this is a Warncliffe. Now, you probably would describe it as a Warncliffe, because I'm not sure what else you'd describe it as, but this is not the short, stout blade of a Warncliffe. This is a very thin, slicey blade. It does have the right sort of curve on the back. It's not one where it goes along straight and then curves down. This does curve almost from the get-go, but where it probably doesn't really qualify as a Warncliffe is it's really quite thin and slicey. Beautiful knife blade. Very, very fond of that. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Just that I think Rasputin's castle is absolutely right. This is the pattern of the original Warncliffe. I had a brief discussion with Stephen Cocker, and he effectively agreed with me on that. So I don't think I was teaching him anything. I think that was what he was thinking as well. So anyway, that'll do. That's all with it. I'm going to now make the second instalment of my knife collection, and I'm going to be looking at the stag patterns, and that's why all the knives I've just shown you are stag. So we've done mother of pearl. This next one is going to be stag, and then we'll probably go on to desert ironwood will be the next one after that, but stag next. So thank you very much for watching this. See you again shortly. Bye.